I would join hiking groups. I would join pickleball groups, places where I could meet people while I enjoy life. I would invest into networking events and collaborate with other people that can help extend my network, ask for referrals, give incentives. But I think we attract the type of people that want the life that we live. It doesn't need to be, glorious, but if we're not out having fun and enjoying ourselves, we're not really going to attract fun people. and I think life is meant to be enjoyed. And so that's the first thing I would do is just get out and start living and meeting people.
Welcome to MLM Nation, a podcast of leaders, by leaders, for leaders, hosted by Simon Chan. He's built a team of over 200,000 and is now a full-time MLM coach and trainer. So if you're ready to level up your business, join us now. Let's do this.
MLM Nation, this is Simon Chan. I'm fired up to bring our special guest today. We have Melyna Harrison. Hey, Melyna, are you ready to make it happen?
I am so excited, and thank you for having me.
Melyna Harrison was a massage therapist and also taught massage at a massage college before she got started in network marketing. Today, she's a seven-figure earner who has over 500,000 people in her organization. She's also a mother of 4 children and lives out in Utah. So Melyna, by the way, we've done over almost 800 podcast interviews. You're the first Melyna. When we met, I said that was the coolest name. If I had a daughter, I don't have a daughter, but if I had a daughter, she'd be named Melyna. Anyway, welcome to ML Nation. Share us a little bit about your background. How did you go from being a massage therapist to a 7-figure big-time earner?
Well, with massage, actually, the reason I went into massage is because I really just love health and wellness, kind of knowing how the body works, helping people. I think you get one body per lifetime. So if you don't take care of it, then you really don't get to trade one in for a newer model or anything like that. So I love massage, but I was actually looking for something that I could do from home because I knew, when I become a mom, I don't want to be away from my children. I was raised by a single mother, and I remember coming home from school to an empty house. And so I knew at a young age, I decided when I was about 10 or 11, I have to find something that I can do that allows me to be home with my children, because I never want them to walk into an empty house like I had to do growing up. My mom was great. She's fantastic, but you never know what circumstances are going to arise. And so that's why I went into massage. I love health and wellness, and I really love the flexibility of being able to work for myself and having a massage studio in my house or working at a doctor's office or different things like that. So that was kind of a great leeway into, when my friend introduced me to MLM, the model of that, I thought, okay, this actually is even better, because I realized, doing massage, probably long term, I mean, you can't really do full-time 40 hours a week it's manual labor, right? And I also realized when I did massage, I only got paid when there was somebody on my table. And so I was very limited on the amount of hours that I could do. I did start my own little business and had another therapist that worked underneath me. But I realized, instead of spending 20 hours a week doing massage and then, having to find, daycare and stuff like that for my kids, how about I spend 20 hours a week teaching 1,000 other people to work 20 hours a week, and then I'm paid on a lot more than just 20 hours of work. So the fact that I can get paid a little bit of money on what a lot of people do instead of a lot on just what I do alone just makes the most sense when we're looking for flexibility, financial freedom, residual income. And so that was kind of a perfect gateway into what I do now.
So how did your friend introduce you? Was it like a phone call, or was it like through social media? How were you exposed to the business?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I've made fun of her from about it since, but it's just a friend from high school. We were still friends. We were still kind of in contact a few times a year. She sent me an email, actually, that her upline was going to be about 2 hours away from where I was. I was living in Las Vegas at the time. She's like, yeah, she's going to come and do this presentation. You should go out and check it out. I just thought, I'm good. I had no interest. It wasn't really interesting to me. I didn't need some, I grew up in Utah, so I believe this is the mecca of MLM everywhere. So I've been exposed quite a bit, and I've seen it done correctly. I've seen it done incorrectly, but I just wasn't interested. But then when I came home for Christmas, we got together, we had dinner, and then she told me what she was doing, and she showed me what she was doing. And I loved the products so much that I started using them. And I thought, oh my goodness, every mom needs to have these, and every massage therapist needs to have, everyone just needs to have these to help with their health. And so it was really just getting hands-on. I don't really believe in sending a spammy email is really effective. That's why I made fun of her since then. But she followed up and like taking me to dinner, talking to me. And like I said, when she told me and showed me, that's when I really opened up to, what she was telling me.
And what year was this?
It was actually Christmas 2009. So then January in 2010, I kind of hosted a little event, and that's when I sort of got started. I was very casually sharing. I wasn't really interested in looking for a business at that time. My husband at the time had a very successful internet marketing company. And so I had no real need financial, and I had 2 toddlers at home, but I did just think these are awesome. And so I was a great sharer. In fact, my husband at the time one day said, I work really hard so that you don't have to. I don't understand why, on Thursday night, I have to babysit the kids so you can go out and do this event. And at first I thought, I don't know, why is that? And then I remember saying, I really enjoy doing this. And for me, it's nice to do something outside of ABCs and 1, 2, 3s and diapers and dishes all day. It was something that I could actually have adult interaction with, have connection, and measure progress versus, dishes you can't really like, oh, I've progressed because they're there again every day, and laundry and diapers, all of that. And so my why at the beginning, I remember people had these great, huge whys, and mine was very basic. I just thought, I kind of need a break from being with kids all day, and I want to feel smart once in a while and do like adult things and have conversations that stretch me. And so I did that for about a year and was making like $1,300 a month, nothing substantial. But then, a series of really crazy events happened. And overnight in February of 2011, my ex-husband, he lost every penny that we owned. He lost his business. And the next week I found out I was pregnant with our 3rd child. And so that's when I really looked at it as, what could I do business-wise for this? And so I became really intentional. My time was very short. So I'd wake up before the kids got up. I would do my calls and things during nap times. I would, work after the kids went to bed. And I really believed in collaborating. So I had a neighbor that she would make dinner Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and I would make dinner Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. And that freed up 3 nights a week for me that I could just hustle and grind. And I was able to triple my income that year, and the following year, triple it. And by, 2013 was in that 6-figure range and continue to grow from there. So I think this business model is something that is really doable for anybody. You just have to be intentional with where you're putting your focus.
And we're going to get back to that in a second. What was your turning point, you feel like, where things really started taking off for you?
Well, I really feel like the turning point was when all of a sudden there was a need. All of a sudden I realized, I can't wait around for someone else to change my financial situation. And I remember thinking, this is really uncomfortable. So my daughter was 5. I pulled her out of dance class. I just had to stop any expenses that we had. And I remember thinking, this is really uncomfortable to be so financially limited. And I don't want to feel uncomfortable like this for 5, 10 years. So instead, if I'm going to be uncomfortable, I'm going to be uncomfortable on my terms. And it's going to be, creating something. Because that first year when we lost every penny we owned, lost our cars, lost our home, everything like that, we moved into with my mom. She had a 2-bedroom condo that we went and moved in with her really, while we were getting on our feet. And I thought, yeah, this is uncomfortable. So may as well get all the way uncomfortable, stretch out of my comfort zone. And I just focused on my kids and my family, but otherwise all the income that I earned, I put right back into my business. Any free time that I had, I put right back into my business. I made room for it. And, like I said, that first year tripled my income, which wasn't really enough to fully support a family comfortably. But then the following year, yeah, we is when we hit that 6-figure with my team. So I just think that turning point was deciding, I don't like the way this feels, and I'm not going to wait for somebody else to save me or somebody else to change it. I'm going to take control of my financial situation and create my own wealth and, create my own situation.
You said the first year, you didn't make that much, right? You tripled the income, but it still wasn't that much to raise a family. Did you have doubts? Did you have doubts about, wait, is this even worth it? Or did you had the faith that if I keep doing what I'm doing, it'll eventually get more and more?
So I never had doubts because I could see that it was working. I was limited on how much time I could spend to it. There was one time, like sometimes you have that mom guilt. I don't know if dad guilt kicks in the same way or not. I think sometimes we're wired differently. But I remember I had an event that I had scheduled. It was a really important event for me, and I had to go out of town for it. And then I realized it was my daughter's first day of kindergarten. And that just tore me apart. I cried the whole 6-hour drive out of town thinking, oh my gosh, I'm doing this for my family, but I'm currently neglecting to be there for my family. And my mom came over, she got her ready, did her hair and everything else. But it was so hard on me because you're kind of torn, like, is this really worth it? Am I doing it for my family, or is my family sacrificing? And the answer is both. And I shared that story actually a couple years ago, and my daughter was in the room. She is 17 now. And she was like, you missed my first day of school? It had no impact on her. She didn't care. It wasn't a big deal. But when I look back, I was able to, she had a life coach at the age of 10 when she started to struggle with some, social anxiety. And she's been able to travel the world. We were able to pay for private school and cheer and dance and all the things that I was able to provide for her. So yeah, you'll have moments of sacrifice that you might wonder, is this really worth it? But anything you do, any business you have, even as an employer, anything you do or don't do really is a sacrifice. What I love about this model is you get to decide which sacrifices you make, and you get to decide which ones are worth it for you. And so, yeah, I make sacrifices all the time. For everything. I make sacrifices for my kids. I make sacrifices for my business. And I'm very strategic about being intentional on what things to sacrifice and what things I don't.
This is the third time you said intentional. And we could tie it into work-life balance as well, and time management skills. So obviously you have 4 kids. What do you mean by intentional? Like, what do you specifically mean by that?
So I think it can be easy to live life in reactive mode, where we wait for life to happen and then we kind of react to it. But I think that really doesn't get us anywhere except for behind in life. So when I say intentional, I mean having a purposeful plan for each day, having a purposeful goal for that year, goal for that month, goal for that week, and being intentional, because the world is so busy now. I have, there will be people knocking on the door, calling, emailing, trying to get your attention in 80 different directions. So you have to take control of that and really be clear. What is it that I want? How is this action creating what I want? Is this taking away from what I want? Is it adding to it? And then I even think, being intentional with my family, I want to ensure that the work that I do is always looked at as a blessing to them and not as a burden. So if I was really intentional in meeting with my family, like talking to my kids, making goals together. We had this incentive. Once we hit this really big goal, we would go to Disneyland, and just being intentional in my communication of what we're creating so that they take pride in the goals that we hit. And so that they are there to help support and cheer me on. So instead of saying, "Oh, are you working again late tonight, Mom?" They're saying, "Oh, how did your event go?" Or, "How many more events do you have till we hit the goal?" Or, "Did you make that?" And they celebrate and they feel a part of it. And I think there's just a few minor tweaks that we can make in our life to be more intentional so that we're creating life. Life's not just happening and we're along for the ride.
What's an example of being reactive for those who don't know, like being proactive instead of being in reactive mode?
So, for example, I mean, going down a rabbit hole of you've got emails constantly. Like I think a lot of people have emails and messages on social media and all sorts of things. You could spend hours just responding to
Yeah.
things. And I think before I've got certain times that I'll go online and check and respond to things, but I'm not going to spend my time responding to every request I get for my time. I have my time specifically mapped out, and I try to get my power hour of stuff done before I even open up emails.
Mm.
And so I'm clear on what I need to accomplish that day. I know what my priorities are for that day, and I get those taken care of. And then, yes, I'll breeze through and skim. And a lot of emails I'll forward to my assistant, or I'll forward to someone on my team, or I'll just delete it if it's not applicable. But I think we're just in this mode where we feel like we have to react or respond to everything that comes in our direction. And there's just simply not enough hours in the day for you to give everybody your time so freely.
Yeah.
I think your time is your most valuable asset. You can't ever get it back. And so be really clear on where you're going to spend that time. And I think if someone, was just getting started, you probably hear this a lot too. One of the biggest roadblocks people have in creating their own business is thinking they just don't have the time for it. But then you can look through the day. Why don't you journal your days for a week or two? And how much time did you spend on social media just scrolling? You weren't putting up content or anything. You're just scrolling. How much time were you on Netflix? How much time, if someone's spending, usually people spend a lot more time than they think. It might be half an hour here, 45 minutes there. And that's plenty of time to do this business. This business isn't something you have to clock in for 8-hour shifts. I do a lot of my follow-ups, 20 minutes here, 45 minutes there, sitting in carpool, waiting for my kids to get out of school, sitting at hockey practice. I can follow up on things, or that might be when I go through my emails really quickly. So I think people think there's a lot less time than there is, but there's always plenty of time for what you prioritize.
Yeah, I love that. Well, what is the power hour? You said you do your power. What is it? What's in the power hour?
So my power hour is usually, I have different days. Like Wednesdays are usually my content creation days. So if I have any videos that need to be recorded, I'm going to have that all set up and record that before I open up emails and get sidetracked with that. I have mentoring is my Mondays. I'll go on and do all my mentoring, and my contacting and following up. Really, I look at what are my income producing activities, and I do like to bundle them together. So like Tuesdays is when I'll do most of my contacting. Thursdays is when I'll do most of my following up. So I feel like if you're trying to do all the things all the time, then you get spread really thin and you're not very efficient in any of them. So I have my days scheduled where in the morning I wake up, I get my kids off to school, do all of that kind of thing. I do a quick refresh of my house because I'm weird. And if my house is disorganized, it feels like clutter in my mind. And then, once 9 o'clock comes, I hit the ground running. I usually clear everything I need to have done before, lunch. And then that's where I can be a little bit, if I've got my top priorities for that day completed, then I can relax a bit. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yes, yes. No, I like the batching the different days because I do that as well because it's like your brain sometimes is very difficult to switch back and forth, right? So from
Yeah.
doing prospecting to mentoring and then to creating content, there's all different types of the brain, from right brain to left brain. And that's why we're recording this on a Wednesday, which is content day for you,
Yes.
right?
Yep, it
Good.
works just perfect.
It's interesting because like when you reply back to email, you talk about being a reactive mode instead of proactive mode. One thing I noticed that every top leader that I've interviewed, when they email me the info that I need, they normally do it late at night, right? Well, people who are not, because and that makes sense because you're doing your power hour, your priorities, and replying back your bio for this is like probably lower priority, right? Well, people that are not as successful, you send them an email, they normally get the information to right away. They're reactive mode instead of being that proactive mode.
Yeah, and I actually think your day starts the night before. So
Yeah.
at night, I usually kind of go through, what do I need to make sure, like, what do I need to make sure gets done tomorrow? And so that's why at night I'm like, okay, I need to make sure this is all taken care of so that tomorrow I'm ready to go. I think some people are halfway through their day before they even decide what they need to be getting done that day. And so I do think the night before is when your day really starts. It's also, going to bed on time, things like that.
You plan the week, obviously you do. What's your routine when you plan the week? Like I do it like normally late Sunday or super early Monday. When do you plan your weeks or
I
months?
plan it on Fridays. I try to, my Saturdays are so unpredictable. A lot of times we have hockey tournaments or just, stuff with 4 kids. And my Sundays are the days that I don't check email generally. I try to check out. So I coached with Dan Sullivan. He's
Very good.
he's a really good high, well, he only coaches like high income earning entrepreneurs. It's not in the network marketing model, but I used to fly to Toronto every quarter and spend 2 days with him for a couple of years. And he taught me the concept of focus days, buffer days, and free days, because people kind of try to mix everything together. But it's important for you to have a free day where for a 24-hour period, you are able to check out. As entrepreneurs, it's actually really tricky because we constantly have stuff going on in the back of our mind. So there is just some mental kind of boundaries we have to put on ourselves. Otherwise, we will get burnt out. And then we stop having creativity. We stop having the enjoyment of the process of building a business. We feel burnt out and like we're lagging, and we just we procrastinate things because we don't want to get them done. But if we give ourselves that free day where and I take usually a half a day on Thursdays. Thursdays are the only evening I open up for work, but I take usually Thursday and then all of Sunday, and that gives myself it gives me an opportunity to refresh, rejuvenate, and then come back excited to do the work that I do. And then the focus days are those days where, the things that are top incoming, and those are usually my Mondays and Wednesdays. And then we have buffer days where we kind of do all the in-between stuff that prepare for the focus days. And that's when we're setting appointments and, just all of the busy work that has to get done, but it's not really the income producing stuff. And so he taught me that concept, and that's been really helpful. I think oftentimes in network marketing, we get a lot of training from our companies about our product and about our sales plan and scripts and different things like that. But I was earning 7 figures before I realized I actually don't know anything about running a business. Like, I built a business, but I don't know how to run a business. And so I had myself going too many directions and doing things that really I wasn't meant to do. Dan Sullivan and then my friend Ben Hardy, they actually wrote a book called Who Not How, which I totally recommend. And when it's not something in the beginning. In the beginning, you're the who for everything, right? When you're just getting started, you do all the things. But then you need to learn at a certain point to stick in your zone of genius and spend your time intentionally on the things that you're good at and that you're effective with, and then hire out the other things that don't need to be done by you. And this I do in my business. I also do in my home. My kids do care who tucks them into bed. They care that I'm there and I'm present. My toilets don't care who cleans them, right? And I used to have a complex about that. Like, what kind of homemaker and mom am I if I, can't clean my toilets. But then I shifted that mindset and thought, you know what? Once a week, I'll have someone else come and clean my house, and I'll take my kids out to the park and do something fun. And the really cool thing about that was my whole house was clean at the same time, which never happens. If I was the one cleaning it, I would be cleaning one corner and they'd be making a mess in another corner. So I think we have to get over ourselves and realize we don't have to do all the things.
Yeah, great stuff. So you were in the Dan Sullivan 10X Club. That's the mastermind. Yeah, you're good. Hey, I know you're super consistent, but for those who are struggling with it, how important is consistency to success?
Well, I would say consistency is the main thing. I have seen, and this is the thing about network marketing that I hope I can phrase the correct way. I am really fortunate to have an upline that is amazing. You could meet, any of my upline and be like, oh, I can tell why they're successful. But I remember the first leadership retreat that I went to, because I felt intimidated. Like, I'm not as dynamic as this one. I don't have the business experience that this one has. I don't have the network that this one has. So I kind of felt like I'm really just a regular person. And so I remember the first leadership retreat I went to, I looked around and I was like, oh, okay. I see people that some were socially awkward or not super graceful. Some, we're in a health and wellness company and they didn't really look very healthy. But what I found was, and now it's been years and years, I'm actually pretty good at identifying, this is what this person's good at. This is what that person is good at. And if you look at the top leaders across, my company and, industry wide, there's really nothing you could pin down that they have in common. People come from all walks of life, all backgrounds, all, sales styles, building styles, but it's that they're passionate about what they do and they're consistent in doing it. Because I've seen some people that, people grow and progress. I've seen some people that are dynamic on stage now, but when they first got started, I was like, oh, okay. And, but they were consistent. And I knew some people that would build just on little one-on-ones. They were too afraid to stand in front of a room. So they would, sit at a coffee shop across from one person. And they found what they were passionate about and they were consistent. And if you stay consistent, I've never found anyone that was consistent that didn't create success.
This is my favorite question. In your 14 years, what is your worst moment in network marketing? To the point you had doubts and maybe even wanted to quit, but you didn't quit, and that's why you are where you are today.
Yes. So this was in 2014. I was pushing for the highest rank in my company, and I was pregnant with baby number 4 at the time. And I felt really spread thin, emotional, all of the things. So one of my leaders was, because as you know, in this company, your leaders, you depend on them, they depend on you. You can't hit any ranks on your own, right? So they were pushing for a new rank as well. And the night before our deadline, they were still a little bit away. And I remember they just kind of wanted to give up. I was like, no, we've invested, like at this point, we're hitting it. There's so much, I've invested so much in incentives and we put so much in, like, let's go. And I remember they said, well, it just feels like we're working for your goal instead of ours. And that felt like a gut punch, just like a slap in the face. And it like took my breath away, because this was kind of like my weakest link, but also a person I really cared about. It was actually a married couple that I really cared about and really wanted them to have success. So I had sponsored more people underneath them than any of my other teams. I had put more time into mentoring them and their leaders than any of my other teams. Like, I had poured probably more money into this team, especially, those few months leading up to this goal that we were trying to hit. And so and their goal for the end of the year was the rank above the one that we were hitting halfway through the year. So I was kind of like, well, that doesn't make sense. This is a stepping stone towards the goal you told me you wanted to hit. And they really needed this financially and literally begged me to help them get there because they needed it financially for their family. So I just felt so taken advantage of, taken for granted. I was really upset. And so, I kind of had my own pity party, like, I don't need them. I'll find a new leader, whatever else. And then I realized my mistake and I had to eat a big helping of humble pie. and realized that I had done so much to help them, quote unquote, help them, but I had taken away their sense of leadership, autonomy. And instead of helping them brainstorm and come up with their own solutions, I would come in and create a solution for them, because strategy is it's a huge strength of mine. So I would come in and kind of solve the problem for them and like, oh, here's what we're going to do. And I realized I created followers, not leaders. And I realized I had set it up so that even when they achieved a goal, they felt like the goal that was achieved was mine and not their accomplishment. And when they didn't achieve the intended goal, then they felt like I didn't help enough or something like that. And so I realized that a real leader empowers other leaders to grow within their strengths and helps them see the possibilities and is there to help lift and mentor and support them, but always allows them to be the one that leads their team, even if they do it differently than I would. And I think that's the beauty of this business, is when different people with different strengths come together, that's when you create a really powerful team. And so I just remember it was a very hard couple of days where I had to realize, at first I was super angry, but then realized I created that mess really and had to do it differently from then on.
That's a great lesson. Hey, thank you so much. You've been amazing. I love your stories. You're a very good storyteller. I think that's something our listeners and viewers need to pay attention. All top leaders are amazing storytellers. Very good at storytelling. As we wrap up, some quick questions to pick your brain. Okay, these can be quick, one sentence, one phrase, or one word. What's your favorite success quote that motivates you?
No other success can compensate for failure in the home. So it was made popular by David O. McKay, but it's actually a requote from J.E. McCullough's. And so I think people get wrapped up in being successful, but they don't quite identify what successful means. And it's a lot of times at the expense of the things that matter most. I know you, being a family man, you totally get this.
What is one habit that's helped you become successful?
Planning, strategizing and planning so that we've got a clear plan for the day, and we're attacking the day. The day's not attacking us.
What's the best piece of advice you ever received?
The best piece of advice. Let me think. The best piece of advice that I've received is that if you want to be more supported, it's up to you to create an environment that supports you. This is including, your family and your goals. It's disassociating from people that are tearing you down. It's there's a book called Willpower Doesn't Work, written by my friend Ben Hardy, where if you want to be successful and you're on a diet, you don't wait for willpower to not eat the box of donuts in the pantry. You just remove the box of donuts and put healthy snacks in there. If you want to work out, you set a goal with a personal trainer or a friend. You create an environment that is setting you up for success instead of just hoping that you'll be supported and people will come and help you.
What's your favorite prospecting tool? So say you have a qualified prospect. Do you send them a video first? Do you do a personal video, a company video? Do you do a Zoom? Do you meet face-to-face? Do you give out samples? What do you like to use?
So I like to send a personal video that takes 20 seconds, just so they remember my face and my name and know that I remember their name. And then I just link them to an app we created that kind of takes them down the automated process with a series of emails, videos, intake forms, things like that.
What's your favorite app on your phone that's not a social media app?
Favorite app on my phone? I like Otter.ai. It just helps me. Have you used Otter.ai?
No, I haven't. What is it about?
It's just a transcription app. So if I am in a meeting or in something and I want to take notes, I can just turn that on and it will record the whole thing. Or if I'm watching a webinar, I can turn that on and I'll have it all. It's a recording, but it transcribes it for me. So if instead of typing things out, I can just talk into my Otter.ai, send it over to my assistant, and it's mostly written. She might fix some grammar, but it's mostly written.
That is awesome, because I'm like, you like to read, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because me too. It's like I think most people like videos better. Like, but instead of skimming through a video for 40-minute webinar, you can double the speed. I'd rather read much quicker than going through that. I gotta go check that out.
Sometimes are like, okay, I remember hearing this. you can't watch the 40-minute video over, but I can skim through
Yeah.
and
Yes.
grab the part that I want.
Finally, I found someone exactly like me. Most people don't get it. They're like, oh, like the video. I don't want the video. I don't want the audio. I want to be able to read and skim. That is
Yeah, and
really
I mean,
cool. I'm going to check it out.
sometimes I do love a good audiobook that I put on 2 times the speed, because I can do that while doing laundry or getting ready
Right.
for dinner or whatever else. But if I ever have a part that I need,
Yes.
I'll pause it, and then I'll go back 10 seconds, replay it, and record it.
Yeah. No, it's a lot.
Otherwise, it's just too hard to reference. You don't even remember where it came from.
Yeah, exactly. Especially, I think the good books. If I listen to Audible, then I go buy the book, the digital book, because then you can find the section. But that, yeah, especially for learning, right? Like that you hear something good. What is it? But with the print, you can always search for it much easier and get to the exact spot.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes I will have somebody that will ask for a script, or, well, how did you just say that? And I don't even remember, but I can just talk it into the Otter.ai, and then it's a script that I can send over to somebody.
What are 2 or 3 books you will recommend to MLM Nation?
So I do really love the Willpower Doesn't Work book by Benjamin Hardy. And I love Who Not How by Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan. It's Dan Sullivan's concept that they collaborated with. And those are the 2 main ones that I find myself recommending over and over. There's hundreds of really good ones, but those are 2 good ones. There's another book. It's a parenting book, but it's called Unconditional Parenting by Alfie Kohn. And I personally think parenting skills are one of the best leadership skills that we can develop. And so this parenting book kind of blew my mind, because sometimes when we praise our children, we're actually programming them that they're only loved and accepted based on what they accomplish. So I had to learn to reframe the way that I even praise, because you would think praising is good. But instead of saying, oh my gosh, I'm so proud of you for getting an A in that class, or an A on that test, or whatever, or winning that game, I don't say things like that anymore. I'll say things like, I'm so proud of how hard you worked in math this week. I can tell that your work is paying off. I'm so proud of you. I saw you working really hard in practice. I saw you hustling that whole game. I'm so proud of how well you contributed to your team winning. Because there's a lot of research that goes into people. We have this huge fear of failure. And we have this fear of failure because people have been praised on what they accomplish, not what they actually put into. And so studies show that people will, for the kids, for example, if they were always praised for being smart, they wouldn't want to try anything hard. They didn't want to try the harder classes or harder tests, because their identity was about being smart, and that could take that away from them. And so I think when people are praised for the effort they put in and the consistency and the work that they do, not everything works the way that we want. Sometimes we'll go for goals and we miss them. But I always say it's better to aim for the cloud or the stars and land on the clouds than aim for the gutter and hit it. So that's a great book too, Unconditional Parenting.
It's so good, because I read something similar like that. Fortunately, I read it like 10 years ago when I had my kids. And they have actually done tons of studies. Like when you praise your kid as smart, that's the worst thing to do. Because once you have any type of obstacle, and then sooner or later you're going to go to school, you have a hard class, they're going to think they're dumb and there's something wrong with them, right? Well, if you praise for hard work, you're the hardest worker. You're the study the most. They are obviously they're going to keep working hard. When they have the challenges, their mental paradigms, I just have to work harder. And eventually,
and if something's easy, they want the challenge. They're not afraid of failing, because as long as they work hard, they've succeeded.
Yeah. And that's something I do with my kids with sports. It's like, doesn't matter how, like my son can go 0 for 8. It doesn't matter. If you have a good attitude, you keep working hard, I'll buy you a treat. I'll buy you a new bat. I'll buy you a new glove. But if you go 4 for 4, but you have a bad attitude, or you start getting lazy, then you get nothing. And that's
exactly.
And that comes from personal development.
I have a son that plays goalie in hockey, and he had just finished an undefeated season. And then we were starting at the beginning of a new season. His coach kind of wanted to put together some just friendly games, but he was playing against teams that were a lot better than him and a little bit older. So the first game, the whole last season was undefeated. This first game, I think we lost 8-0. But I always count how many shots he has on him as the goalie. And whenever he walks out, I'll always tell him, like, hey, you got this many shots on you. So he knows, because that's really what he's measuring. And so he lost 0-8, and he walked out, and I was like, hey, you had 39 shots on you. And he's like, oh, I made 31 saves. That's a new personal record. He was really excited. I was so proud of him, because I was in the back of my head, I'm thinking, like, oh my gosh, I wonder what this is going to do to him. He thinks he's like so amazing, just had an undefeated season, and now he just got like hammered. But he looked at it completely different. That that was the game. He had the most shots on him, and that was the most saves he's ever had.
That is so awesome. It's such great, it makes me so happy to hear those stories, but that's great parenting, right? Because if he's focused on the 31 saves, eventually, again, most people focus on the negative. Oh, we lost, we got killed. But he's focused on the positive. Then eventually he's going to keep working harder. Next time he wants to make 35 saves, right? 40 saves. That's only going to get him better and better. That's so cool.
And it works in our teams as well. As our leaders are growing and going outside their comfort zone, sometimes we fail, but we fell into learning to become better.
Yeah, I mean, we big mistake a lot of people make is like they praise, oh, you got a new customer, you got to sign up, right? But what about a person who did 3 presentations and got nothing? Because the prospect was a bad prospect. If you don't praise that person, that there's no chance that person's ever going to do another presentation after going over 3.
Simon, you probably know this. Anybody that's ever reached higher success levels in network marketing has shown up to teach a class or to teach an event or have an event with nobody there. I don't know, like most everybody has shown up and there's an empty room, or, all of the things that people go through. We've done that. We've had the calls where people are not interested. We probably at some point had someone even be rude to us. Normally people are pretty decent, but so when somebody has that happen, if that's what stops them, they would never have reached higher levels and goals. So you really can't let failure be your roadblock. It's just that stepping stone to the next level of success. And it's how you learn and adjust and get better.
Yeah, I'm sure you've had done many meetings where no one showed up, or only one person showed up, or 10% of the people showed up. And I always ask someone, like, especially if they're very excited, have you had a meeting when no one showed up? And it's like, no. Well, I was like, well, then you haven't prospected and worked hard enough. Because it's going to happen.
Yeah. And it's just part of how life works. It's how we grow.
Yeah. Here's the last question, the $1 million question. You ready?
Okay.
Imagine you had to start all over again and you knew no one, but you had all your current knowledge, skills, and wisdom. What's the first thing you do, or the first place you go to find prospects and build a network marketing business from scratch?
I think the first thing I would do is really just get out and have fun. I would join hiking groups. I would join pickleball groups, places where I could meet people while I enjoy life. I would invest into networking events and collaborate with other people that can help extend my network, ask for referrals, give incentives. But I think we attract the type of people that want the life that we live. It doesn't need to be, glorious, but if we're not out having fun and enjoying ourselves, we're not really going to attract fun people. and I think life is meant to be enjoyed. And so that's the first thing I would do, is just get out and start living and meeting people.
As we wrap up, any last words or advice? And then what's the best way our listeners can connect with you, Melyna?
I guess my last words of advice is that you are the one that gets to write your life story. You're the one that gets to create your life. I would say be very clear on what you want. Don't let anybody else decide the life that you live. Don't let the world determine it for you. Don't let your family or friends determine what you're I guess, capable of doing. You decide, and then you go after that, because if you're clear on what you want, there's nothing that can stop you from getting it. And I believe in you. I 100% believe that this is something anybody can do. I think network marketing, I was told, is it's an extraordinary way to earn income that ordinary people can do, right? It's where ordinary people can create extraordinary income, I guess I think was the quote. And so that's what I would really say. If anybody wants to connect, I'm Melyna Harrison on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I have my website, Melyna.com. And I'm happy to connect and share any of my tips and collaborate more.
ML Nation, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And today you've been hanging out with Melyna Harrison. So keep up the momentum and go to mlnation.com, click on the podcast tab and the show notes and all the nuggets of wisdom that Melyna shared, including her social media profiles, the books. Definitely connect her, follow her. Everything will be right there. Hey, in order to be successful in life, in business, and in network marketing, you must help others. So Melyna, thanks again for sharing your valuable time with ML Nation. We're grateful to you and we appreciate you for having a positive impact on millions of distributors worldwide. Thank you so much again and God bless you.
Thank you so much, Simon. I really appreciate it.
Hey, ML Nation. Here's a recap from a great show from Melyna Harrison. I love that show. And afterwards, we chatted for quite some time because we have a lot in common. And we she talked about environment. If you want to be successful, you got to put yourself in an environment of success, right? And environment, that's something I do, always go to different events to meet people. I met her at the Pirates Cove Mastermind that hosted by Rob Sperry. Amazing event. And it's funny, at that event, I didn't connect with her that much because I was talking to different people, but afterwards we connected. And she's just an amazing leader there, a 7-figure earner, just sharing her story and how you have to be intentional, right? Like if you're watching this, you're listening to this, I know you're busy. We're all busy, but are you intentional with your days? I like how she batches her days, a different theme to her days. There's one day, a lot on reach outs, one day on follow-ups, one day on content. And you talk about her turning point was her why, being intentional. She's just dabbling it. But once she became intentional, she planned her day, right? You got to plan your day. If you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. And learn to say no to things and being on the offense, right? I always talk about when the day starts, are you reacting to all the messages coming in, or are you proactive and going out there and doing what you're supposed to do to that plan? And I joked about that on the show where she sent her bio and everything to me late at night. And I think that's something I find all successful people do. Like they are busy working on their agenda, and then whatever they need to get back to, they'll get back to them later during the downtime, right? Because they're saving the best energy to create content, the best energy to do the prospecting, leading their teams, and saving the admin work, all that stuff later on during the day. Yeah, talk about planning sessions. I love what she shared about the Dan Sullivan, the focus days, buffer days, free days. Grew a lot of go there. And every leader I talked about, she said, this business about ordinary people earning extraordinary income. But there's 2 things in common. They're all passionate. And I think back when I first started, I didn't have the skills, but I was definitely passionate and I was consistent, right? And if you're passionate and consistent, eventually you are going to be successful. We're all going to make it. And you will as well, but you have to be passionate. I think you've listened to this, you are passionate and you have to stay consistent and you got to say no to those distractions. You talk about leadership as well, how real leaders empower their teams. They're not just doing everything for them. They're empowering their teams to do what they need to do. So anyway, amazing show. I can go on and on about this. She talks about having fun, meeting people. Great message. Definitely go follow her. She's got some really good social media content. Go check her out. And thank you for listening. And don't forget, these podcasts, they're not free. They take a lot of my time, took a lot of Melyna's time. She's super busy in her schedule, having 4 kids. She squeezes in the time. So make sure you go follow her. Make sure you subscribe and leave us a review on YouTube and subscribe to us on your favorite platform. And let's get this podcast known. You're listening to this. Most people in network marketing know about it. For those who don't, but I want people who are not in network marketing to know about this, right? This is all lift up the profession, and every review, every subscription, every follow, they all help. So anyway, thank you so much. Thanks again to Melyna for an amazing episode. Go to the show notes page on mlnation.com. You can follow her links to her profile there, or the nuggets out there, the books she recommended there as well. And now it's over to you. Make sure you become intentional like the way Melyna shared. Be intentional and go out there and have a positive impact on someone's life. God bless you all.